Skype Conference with America. The group from California, San Jose. The group from Chicago. Los Angeles. Canada, Toronto. A question from California, San Jose.
Hello, Tatyana Nikolaevna. Thank you so much for agreeing to meet with us today.
What priorities can you underline for us, promoting the teaching of the Ascended Masters in the United States in the near future? What should we pay attention to? What directions for development should we choose? What should we do first of all, and how do you see the work of Sirius in the U.S. in the future? This teaching that is given by the Masters is addressed directly to the hearts of people. Even though I receive the messages, they are addressed to the hearts of each person, regardless of what part of the globe he or she lives. And each person should be getting, from within himself, all the instructions, inspirations, and comprehension of what he should do. This is how the teaching works. Therefore, to give some instructions, it can be done, but if these instructions are not coming from within, it doesn't seem right. What I mean is that until a person starts receiving the directions from within himself, the outer instructions will not work. First of all, we have to make the teaching available to as many people as we can. We can talk about the teaching, but then the teaching will be refracted through the perception of the person who speaks about it. This is why the best will be for the people to connect with the source itself, the book. A question from Canada, Toronto. In the West, people are not taught to control their thoughts. Sometimes it is difficult for us to subject our human mind to our higher self. Following the teaching, we do not pay attention to mass media. We have learned to do prayers and meditations every day. What other practices, maybe from your own experience, would you recommend for taming our carnal mind? The most important is the regularity of your practice. And also another factor that is important is the time which you devote to your spiritual practice. You should have at least an hour a day for your spiritual practice, but better if it would be 2.5 hours a day. So, the most important is the regularity, daily practice, at least 1 hour a day. These are the most significant factors. Sometime later, maybe in several years, maybe in
несколько
10
лет, может
years,
быть, через 10 лет,
maybe
может быть,
in
через
15 years,
15 лет,
you will start feeling that
вы
all your
почувствуете,
life is
что
gradually getting devoted
вся ваша жизнь
exceptionally to God.
постепенно посвящается только одному Богу.
No matter what we do in life,
Что бы мы ни
we
делали
need
в
to
нашей
do it
жизни,
with the
если
right
мы это
motive.
делаем с правильным мотивом,
If we do it out of
из чувства
responsibility
чувства
for our
долга перед нашими
children,
детьми,
for
перед
our
нашими
parents,
родителями,
for our
перед нашей
motherland,
Родиной,
for our
перед
friends,
нашими друзьями,
if we feel that it is our
когда мы
duty,
делаем что-то из чувства
then
долга,
we
то
actually
мы
practice karma
фактически
yoga.
занимаемся
In
карма-йогой.
other words,
То есть
everything we
мы
do, we devote to
посвящаем все,
God.
что мы делаем, Богу.
A question from Chicago. On June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriages in the USA. How should we understand homosexuality and lesbianism? If a person from birth cannot determine whether he or she is a man or a woman, what should that person do? What should we do? Many of us know people who are called gay. They may be part of our family, and we love them. Thank you for your question. We all come into this world because each of us has his or her own imperfections. Our task is to overcome these imperfections in this incarnation. For some people, the imperfection is their attachment to alcohol. Others feel jealousy. That's their imperfection. Some people get offended easily. Each of us has some imperfection. We do not know the reason why a certain person feels sexual attraction, not to the opposite sex, but to the same sex. Maybe that is because in a previous life, for example, this person, let's say, was a woman, and in this incarnation, this person becomes a man and cannot adapt easily to the new social role. We have to understand why people get married. We need to answer this question. If people get married to have children, then same-sex marriage will not give that result. If people get married to attain sexual pleasure, in that case, the masters give us their teaching. When we direct our sexual energy not to conceive a child, but to have personal pleasure, we misuse that energy, and by that we create karma. If two men or two women engage in a sexual relationship with each other, so that to receive pleasure, they create karma in the same way. Many people say that people of the same sex get married to help each other go through life. However, thousands of years ago, in order to do that, another method was used. It was a monastery or a brotherhood. Not so long ago, in the Soviet Union, there was a law under which people who had a homosexual relationship were prosecuted according to the law in the criminal code. In many cultures, such people were stoned or even killed. Because we know the teaching, we can treat those people differently. With our love, we can help them to overcome this imperfection of theirs. When we are too judgmental, or we feel a strong emotional reaction about something,
реакцию по какому-то поводу.
For example,
например,
about her being
она
a
лесбиянка
lesbian,
или он
or about this
гомосексуалист.
other person being
это
a
очень резко это
homosexual,
осуждаем,
gay. When we are
испытываем ненависть.
judgmental about it,
И
we
таким
feel
образом,
hatred.
этой своей очень сильной
By that
эмоциональной
strong
реакцией
emotional
мы,
reaction, we
мы как
attract
бы
the same problem for
привлекаем к себе
ourselves in the
в
future
будущей
life.
жизни
We shall
точно эту
be
же
in the
проблему.
same way
И мы будем
a
в следующей жизни
lesbian or a
геями или
gay
лесбиянками.
in the future life.
Очень большой
A very
проблемой
big
нашего
problem of
общества
our
является
society
то,
nowadays is
что
that the
те
relationships
отношения,
that are not
которые
proper
не
become
являются
protected by law
правильными
and are
отношениями,
encouraged
они в
in
настоящее
every
время
way.
возводятся в ранг закона и всячески поощряются. Очень
The
важным
standpoint
является
of the
все-таки позиция
society
общества
is
к
very
этой
important.
проблеме. И тогда, когда
When we put the
мы
priorities correctly towards the homosexuality, we allow people who are homosexual
мы
to
позволяем
overcome
людям,
their condition.
которые склонны к лесбиянству либо гомосексуализму, преодолеть эти свои недостатки.
Many people do
Потому
not
что
have those
многие
imperfections.
люди не имеют этих
But when they
недостатков.
see
Но
that
тогда,
the
когда
society pays
они
lots of
видят,
attention to it,
что в обществе
they
к
decide
этому относятся как бы слишком большое внимание, что ли, этому уделяют, и они просто тоже решают, почему бы нам тоже не попробовать так.
Therefore, when the society addresses this problem incorrectly, then it is very bad. A question from California, San Jose. For those of us who have some relation to Islam, the following question is of interest. Why, over the course of all 10 years, during which the dictations have been given, there is not a single message from the Ascended Masters who would be the representatives of the Muslim religion? This means not just Prophet Muhammad. Are there any Ascended Masters who have been incarnated as Muslims? Many of the masters who give the messages have never incarnated on earth, so we do not know at all to what religion they belonged when they went through their evolution on their own planet. From those masters whom we know, the one who comes to my mind is Master El Morya. In one of his last incarnations, he incarnated as Akbar the Great. He was the head of a state, and the state was called Mughal Empire. The main religion of that state was Islam. Another example is Master Kuthumi. We know that in one of his incarnations he was incarnated as Shah Jahan, and he also practiced Islam. The masters do not have any problems with the religions. They perceive all the religions as different paths to the one and the same truth. A question from Canada. It is written in dictations that after getting enlightenment, people will aspire to move out of big cities, to be closer to nature. But living in secluded places, they will have less opportunities of meeting people, sharing their experience, popularizing the teaching. How to combine these two contradictory factors? I highly doubt that when living in big cities, people can get enlightenment. I highly doubt that. In order to practice true spiritual practices seriously, one needs completely different conditions than those that exist in big cities. And there needed some certain traditions that will allow the teaching to be taught in a way it is supposed to be taught, from the master to the disciple. The energy in our cities and other locations where people live are not pure enough to practice a serious meditation. In order to get enlightenment, one needs to be in a very secluded place, like mountains or a forest, someplace like that. And there must be a certain tradition in the society for those people who meditate. There should be other people who take care of them, bring them food, and look after them. There is no problem if the master is high in the mountains. If there is a disciple who is ready, in accordance with the level of vibrations, this disciple will meet his master sooner or later. We know a recent example of Lahiri Mashaya. He lived in India and he became a yogi. Once while he was working, building a road high in the mountains, he asked one of the workers if there was any yogi in the surrounding area. That way, he was shown where a yogi lived, and he met Babaji. And Babaji told him that Lahiri Mashaya in his far incarnation was his disciple, and Babaji needed to meet him again in order to pass on the details of the teaching of Kriya Yoga. Therefore, we should not be concerned that we will not get the teaching that we need to get. Everything will happen automatically when we are ready. All we could do is make efforts to provide better conditions on earth for the people who live in pure places and perform spiritual practices. And the last question. Tatyana, are you happy with your life? Are you happy performing the service as a messenger? How would you begin to teach a chela who would like to become open for communication with the Ascended Masters?
Стать открытым для того, чтобы общаться с вознесенными владыками.
I cannot say I am completely happy with what I am doing, because in the beginning, when the Masters started to give messages, they wanted to spread the teaching everywhere throughout the world. 10 years have passed, but the dictations have not spread widely enough. That is why I cannot say that I am happy. Tatyana Martinenko says, you are unhappy because you are strongly attached to the result. I answered with the beautiful legend. Long time ago, Goddess Tara was born from the lotus which was growing in the lake. That lake was formed by the tears from the eyes of Avalokiteshvara. When Avalokiteshvara understood that no matter how hard he tried, he could save a certain number of souls, but he could not save all the souls that needed to be saved.
Может спасти какое-то количество душ, но он не может спасти столько душ, сколько нуждаются в
After that, he began to cry, and from his tears a lake was formed. Regarding the second question, How would you begin to teach a
С
Chela
чего бы вы начали
who would
обучать
like to
чела, который
become
бы хотел
open for
открыться общению с
communication with the
вознесенными
ascended
владыками?
masters?
У
I
меня
only have one
всегда
method.
только один способ.
I always ask that person to
Я
help
прошу
me.
человека помочь мне.
I ask that person to help me
Я
spread the
прошу
teaching.
человека помочь мне в распространении учения.
We ask that person to help me spread the teaching
In order to save
спасти
as
как можно
many
больше
souls as possible.
in order to save as many souls as possible.
Некоторые
Some
люди
people begin to help,
начинают помогать,
but very quickly they
но
give
потом
up.
очень быстро бросают.
Some people begin to help, but very quickly they give up.
И
And
настоящие
the true
ученики
disciples
никогда не
never
бросают
stop helping their
помогать
master.
своему учителю.